O Mother Nui, stretch high above this valley. Your starry body is our glory. Then see the hawk of yonder Ahurquit, his fiery splendor, oh so mighty. He brings a light for all our weary souls. He makes the broken spirit whole.
Welcome to this deep dive. Looking through this stack of sources you sent us today, it's honestly just wild. I mean, to realize that an ancient Greek poet, a 1960s meteorologist, and a modern cyberpunk hacker were all basically using the exact same tool to alter reality.
Yeah, it really is a bizarre lineup.
Right. So our mission today is unpacking how this ancient concept of chaos survived rigid science to eventually become a hackable digital interface. And looking at the earliest texts here, the ancients didn't see chaos as a collapse or like a riot in the streets at all.
Oh, far from it. If you read Hesiod's Greek Theogony, the void of chaos is described as this fertile generative womb. It was the primordial soup from which all structure was natively born.
Which is totally counterintuitive to how we use the word today.
Exactly. And you see the exact same mechanism in Norse mythology. The universe doesn't begin with a destructive collapse. It actually begins with a thermodynamic collision of fire and ice in this yawning emptiness. So chaos was pure, raw potential.
Okay, so how do we get from a mythological womb to a rigid scientific concept? Because for centuries, the Enlightenment gave us this Newtonian model of the universe.
Right, the giant predictable clockwork.
Yeah, it was strictly deterministic. Like, if you just knew all the starting variables, you could theoretically predict everything forever.
Well, that deterministic illusion held up until about 1961, thanks to a meteorologist named Edward Lorenz. He was running weather simulations on an early computer, and he wanted to rerun a specific sequence. But instead of typing in the exact six-digit number his computer outputted, which was 0.506127, he just typed in 0.506.
So just a microscopic rounding error, literally 1 part in 1,000.
Yeah, and that tiny omission birthed a completely divergent weather trajectory in the simulation. This was the empirical proof of the butterfly effect.
Wow.
Lorenz proved that deterministic systems are, they're infinitely sensitive to their initial conditions.
Okay, let's unpack this for a second. Because that fundamentally shatters the Newtonian clock metaphor. It means deterministic chaos is less like a predictable machine and more like a massive game of billiards, where the microscopic texture of the felt alters the trajectory of every single ball on the table.
That's actually a much better way to look at it. But the crucial part of Lorenz's discovery, which was later expanded by Benoit Mandelbrot's work on fractals, is the discovery of what they call strange attractors.
Strange attractors?
Yeah, think of a strange attractor like an invisible gravity well. The weather never repeats the exact same pattern twice, but it always swirls within the same defined boundaries. So highly sophisticated, organized patterns natively emerge from turbulence.
Oh, here's where it gets really interesting for you listening. Because if the universe is infinitely sensitive to tiny perturbations, could human intent act as the butterfly wing?
And that question essentially birthed the chaos magic movement in the 1970s. Practitioners like Austin Osman Spare and Peter J. Carroll, they basically stripped the mysticism and dogmatic religion entirely out of the occult.
They systematized it.
Exactly. Carroll even created a mathematical equation for probability perturbation. He figured the probability of an event occurring equals its baseline probability plus the total quantum of magical force applied.
Wait. How does one apply magical force mechanically? I know they used a process called sigilization, but how does turning a desire into a symbol actually do anything?
Well, the mechanism is entirely psychological. If you plainly write down a desire, your rational brain instantly starts doubting it.
Right, that inner voice saying you can't do that.
Precisely. But if you scramble the letters of that written desire into a meaningless visual shape, a sigil, your critical brain stops saying that's impossible. The intent slips straight into your subconscious.
It sneaks past the guards.
Yeah. They treated belief not as an ultimate truth, but as a temporary tool to bypass mental filters.
I have to push back a little here, though. Is this actually magic, or is it just an extreme form of cognitive behavioral therapy? It sounds like they are basically pirating beliefs and installing them like software updates in their own brains.
You could definitely call it CBT, but CBT is focused on repairing your internal state. These practitioners, they were using these mental software updates to try and alter external real-world probability.
Oh, I see.
They genuinely believed their internal state dictated external reality. To them, belief was literally just a cybernetic utility.
So if human belief is the software, it ultimately needed a global hardware network to run on, which explains why this psychological hacking leaped straight into cyberculture as soon as the internet was born.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
William Gibson's Neuromancer started it in fiction, treating the act of hacking the digital matrix as indistinguishable from sorcery.
Right, casting spells in cyberspace.
But then in the 90s, a philosophical collective called the CCRU brought it into reality through the concept of hyperstition.
Meaning fictions that actively engineer their own reality through positive feedback loops?
Yes. And we'd seen chaos weaponized analog style before. Author William Burroughs used what he called acoustic playback sabotage.
What is that?
He would record the ambient noise of a target business, cut the audio tape up, and play the scrambled audio back outside their doors to create a disruptive, confusing feedback loop that actually drove away customers.
That's wild. And today, that same defense mechanism looks like cyber sigilism, right? Where people use unreadable, chaotic glyphs in their usernames or posts to obfuscate tracking algorithms and hide from surveillance.
Exactly. It's the exact same principle, just digitized.
You know, there's an old occult concept called an egregore. It's like a collective group mind or autonomous entity created purely by shared belief. So are modern viral internet phenomena or alternate reality games, are they essentially digital egregores? Like open source rogue software overriding our cultural operating system?
Well, the network makes them real. Fictions bootstrap themselves into reality because millions of networked human nodes feed their belief into them simultaneously.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah, chaos is no longer just a myth or a weather anomaly. It is the fundamental hypersensitive architecture of our modern communication network.
Which brings us right back to that ancient fertile womb of the void you mentioned at the start. The chaos never really went away, we just digitized it. So for you listening, if belief is a cybernetic tool and our networks are powered by hyperstitions that make themselves real, what accidental realities are you unconsciously engineering with your own algorithmic feed every day?